Tell us about your first meeting with a British colonial service. I was a junior assistant secretary to the Chief Minister's office in 1999. I got transferred there on promotion because I had passed the E exam, the law exam. So if you pass the law exam, not only that, I passed it with distinction. Because, it's a bit unfair because I had come back with a master's. When you do a master's, you do research. So I was able to quickly, within 2 hours of the exam, I was able to research the law books and identify the sources of law. But with that distinction in law, I was straight away promoted, transferred to the Ratumara's office. And there, I first experience of what it was like to attend the Council of Ministers chaired by the governor himself. This is the equivalent of cabinet. Okay? The governing body of the colonial government in Fiji. The council, the governor's council, chaired by the council, and all the senior permanent secretaries, all Kaiwalangi. Who are the local representatives, okay? Ratu Sekam Sesembara, okay? Ratu Edward Takobau, Ratu Pedaya and Lau, and Ratu George Takobau. Man, I tell you, all paramount chiefs. The atmosphere was serious, and it was awe-inspiring. So that's the experience. That was the experience of serving in that. Because I tell you, from session in 1874 to the early years after independence, our chiefs, our Toke chiefs, including Ratumara, really believed that the traditional system of chiefs, leadership by chiefs, should apply not only to villages and provinces, should also apply to the central government. So in the early years of independence, that was the belief that locals, particularly Toke, should be led only by chiefs. So not surprising, therefore, the only Toke local members of local in the governor's council were all paramount chiefs. But over time, you see this rule being broken, that leadership should only be through the high chiefs. Okay, particularly it was accelerated after the coup by Rambuka in 1997. Okay, in 1992, with the Toke, what Rambuka did in 1997 was very popular. They hailed Rambuka as a hero and gave him permanent membership of the Great Council of Chiefs because they were only concerned about the rights of the Toke. They were not concerned about the rights of the others. Very sad, but that's the truth. So, in 1992, they formed their parties, SVT, Songosoba and Toke, to champion the rights of the Toke. And there was an election for the presidency of the party. And the two candidates were Mr. Rambuka, the coup leader, and Andy Lady were Lala Mara, a wife of Ratu Mara, and paramount chief of Burumbusanga. Who won that election? Mr. Rambuka. That was a turning point. From then onwards, leadership in Fiji, particularly amongst the Toke, was no longer confined to the paramount chiefs, but was now based on democratic election. Whoever is elected by the people becomes the political leader of the country, irrespective of customary status. That explains the elevation of Mr. Rambuka, Mr. Ngarase. So today, any Toke or anybody, any individual can compete in elections for this position. Whereas, as I saw in that 1970, the locals were all paramount chiefs. That's question number one. How do you strike a balance between politics and governance? Politics is the exercise by the people of their right to choose their leaders. And the elected leaders derive their mandate from the people, from the election. So this is why in a parliamentary democracy as we have, our executive government, led by the Prime Minister, must be elected, must be drawn from Parliament. Parliament comprises people who are elected by the people. So that's politics. The source of authority are the people. The people are sovereign. When you say Fiji, state of Fiji sovereign, what it means is that the sovereignty lies with the people. Okay? So, Terabuka and all his ministers derive their power, their authority through the constitution, but politically from parliament through the election by the people. They are empowered by the people. Sovereignty of people of Fiji vests in the people. That's politics. But you, civil servants, you are not elected, you are appointed. That's the difference. You are appointed by state authorities, like in your case, Permanent Secretaries, Public Service Commission. And when you look at the Constitution, I think Section 126 or 127, values, guidelines, you are guided there, good governance. Okay? Good governance. Very simple illustration of that you'll find in the lecture notes I've given you. I'm providing guidance to permanent secretaries. If ever one day a minister comes to you and say, please employ this friend or relative of mine, stand your ground and politely tell the minister, sir, thank you very much. I, take note of your request, but I am bound by law and good governance rules. I can't do it because, I'm bound by law when making appointments to make appointments through competitive bidding. Okay? Fair application to anyone who is interested, and appointment is made strictly on professional merit. Okay? If I fail to do that, I am liable to being accused of abuse of authority, and I will be disciplined by the Public Service Commission and dismissed. So, very important for you to know. That's good governance. Very important for anyone in the civil service to know the difference, source of power, and how you're expected to exercise that power. It's a very case judgment. Manu Korobula was a director of transport, equivalent of a permanent secretary. His minister was, somebody. One day his minister called him, please, I've got a friend, two friends. We need some driving license and we need some taxi permits. Can you give them? As controller of transport, he said, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm very sympathetic, but I can't do it because we have a standing procedure, good governance procedure, that when you come to the Department of Transport to apply for taxi license or other forms of license, you have to join the queue. Fair treatment, equal treatment to everybody. No jumping the queue, no special favors. The minister went straight to the Public Service Commission and complained about Manu Korobala. Thereafter, immediately the PSC summarily dismissed Mr. Korobala from his job as controller of transport. So he applied to the High Court for judicial review. This went straight to the Fiji Court of Appeal, and Mr. Korobala won his case. Why? The Court of Appeal ruled that even though the Public Service Commission have the power in law to make or terminate contract, even though it had the right to exercise that right to terminate a contract by dismissing Mr. Korobala, it had acted in a manner that what was not expected by Parliament when enacting the law and conferring that power on the PSC, for that power to be exercised, it must always be exercised in good faith and in the public interest and for the public good. Eh? Mr. Kotobalavu had done no wrong. He was exercising his authority as controller properly. And so the Court of Appeal ruled against Kotobalavu. So that's an example of power being vested in a public body like the PSC, but with that public body exercising their power under misdirection, and was therefore declared to be unlawful. Okay? Another case judgment, very interesting case. This is a case of a teacher in Nursery. Teacher and his twin brother. He was a teacher, and after hours, he and his brother were operating a taxi to make some money on the line, livelihood of the family. So one day, he got involved in an accident while taking the car back from a garage. He was charged and convicted, suspended. Okay? But the PSC had no knowledge of this. So this fellow, Matea, he's called Matea, a very famous case, Matea, Lepani Matea. He carried on teaching until 1 year after that accident. The PSC then got informed and summarily dismissed Mr. Matea. And this fellow, very brave, he appealed first to the Court of Appeal and finally to the Supreme Court of Fiji, the highest court of Fiji. Very brave fellow, at great cost to himself. And you know what? He won his case. You know why? Because in dismissing him, the PSC argued to the Supreme Court that, hey, we had the power to do that because there was no requirement in the Public Service Regulation or Public Service Act that we must first interview him, give him the right of procedural fairness, the right to be heard before dismissing him. There's no requirement, express requirement in the law for us to do that. The Court of Appeal ruled. Okay. In the event there is no such power stated in the law, we will tell you. We now introduce a principle of the common law, that where a legislation does not actually provide for procedural fairness, national justice in decision making, we tell you now, every decision maker now must comply with this requirement of procedural fairness. That decision is now incorporated in Section 16 of the 2018 Constitution, that every public decision maker must respect the right of every affected person to procedural justice, national justice and procedural fairness, the right to be heard. So it came from a Matea case. Okay, so that's one. Good governance. So good governance is that's the governance. Whatever action you do must be according to law. Okay? What is your view on the civil service? On a civil servant protection. A lot of civil servants may be unlawfully dismissed and transferred to another unit due to, okay. I tell you, this is why you yourself, every individual person of you must know the law. You must study the civil service regulations. And let's say, if you work at the Ministry of Education, you must know not only the Constitution relating to the power of the Permanent Secretary, you must also know the requirements of the Education Act and the education regulations. For example, you see in the papers a lot of cases arising from transfers, action transfers, a lot of, and this is a regulation 16 or regulation 17 of the public service regulation, which says that before the PSC can transfer somebody from one department or ministry to another, it must give that person advance notice of 28 days. That's the law. And a very brave civil servant, very famous, challenged his transfer because the PSC had failed to comply with that requirement, and he won his case. So there you are. So, if you as a civil servant need to protect, you have public law rights, both under administrative law and employment law. You must know what these rights are, so that you are not abused by those in authority who make decisions that affects you as an individual. Okay? So that's it. Oh, writing a biography? No. I don't believe in self-promotion by writing my life story. And why? Because whatever you're doing when you're in the civil service, you're doing in service of the people in the country. So you're not for yourself. So I have no interest in writing a biography. The legacy I have will be the people who I have attended, who have worked under me and have gained under my guidance. And I'll give you an example. Susan, the PS, she was PS for civil service, Susan. And now she's Secretary of Cabinet. So when I was Permanent Secretary in the PM's office, I recruited her as information officer, public relations for the Cabinet office. And from there she progressed. Under my encouragement, she progressed to Secretary of Cabinet. And under the military regime by Marama, she was transferred to be CO, Permanent Secretary for the Public Service. And now she's back as Secretary of Cabinet. And I hope that when they make a new appointment as Secretary of Cabinet, that she will be fairly considered, because she is a very good performer. See, there's an example of somebody who has gone up the ladder and succeeded out of good performance. So to me, that's important. Not my own biography, my life story, but what you have done to help others. But I tell you, man, when I was in Permanent Secretary, I was very strict with my own staff. In cases of immorality among staff, I would call them in and warn them, you misbehave and you lose your job. You must be strict. You must set the standard of moral behavior amongst your own staff. You'll see in the interview I gave with the public service what I did about how I managed. You want to know why I survived for so long. How is it that I worked for 4 prime ministers? How come? I survived because as a civil servant, I decided I am going to perform my job fearlessly, independently, objectively. When Ratu Mara was Prime Minister, as a paramount chief, a lot of Tokay senior officers had a lot of problems, particularly Lawans. Philippe Mbola was Minister of Education. He was Permanent Secretary of Education, Minister of Education. Aquila Savu was the Director of Planning and so on. Whenever they come to see the Prime Minister, Ratu Mara, they couldn't take it because they're overcome by the fact that Paramount Chief, Ratu Mara is a Paramount Chief. So when Ratu Mara would open his office, they would sit down and crawl. In Tokay custom, when you are meeting with a high chief, you don't look at the chief in the eye. Okay, you understand? You look down all the time. And you don't speak. You speak only when you're asked by the high chief. So they couldn't deal with that situation. I decided that I am going to make a differentiation. In official business, when I'm meeting Ratumara, as Permanent Secretary, I will look at him in the eye and we will have straight conversation. Reason, rationale, the law, what must be done. He liked that. But in Papua Nua situation, I know my place. I don't even qualify to sit at the front door. I know, really at the bottom of the hierarchy in our tradition. So you have to know the circumstances and how to respond to that, particularly when you are Toke. You see, the non-Toke, you are free. You are free as individual persons, nuclear families. We Toke, we are bound by the fact that we belong to a community. And in that community, we are bound by codes of conduct and by a social hierarchy structure. Okay? There are traditional functions. You have to fall into that. And in that culture, you wait to be spoken to by those in high authority. You don't promote yourself. This is why I said, PSC should review, the public ministry of public review how honors, state honors have been awarded. I have a feeling that civil servants have not been fairly treated as in the past. And so, when you are a permanent secretary CEO, you must know the circumstances, the law, the culture in which you operate. But in the end, like I said here in these notes, if ever one day a minister comes to you and says, please, exercise your power of appointment to appoint a relative here, stand firm and say, sorry, we have to follow procedures. Okay, and that's it. So that's how I survived for so long, such a long time.
Mr. Kotobalavu, ladies and gentlemen, I think that will be about the last question we will receive here.